Recording. Recording in progress.
Good morning, and welcome to the Monte Vista Unitarian Universalist congregation. I'm Alan Worley, President of the Board of Trustees, and I'd like to remind you to read your weekly announcements. They're easy to find in the inbox. They have a little set of rainbow hearts. They stand out. This is none of this, I lost it in the inbox stuff. If you're not on the list to receive the announcements, contact the greeter or find me or the minister and give us your email address and we'll get you on the list. After service today, if you're interested in joining, there's a possible new member meet and greet in the founder's room. So if you're new, you're invited to attend. RE cookbooks, they're back on the side table. They're reduced to $10 each. They pay for camp scholarships for our kids. And believe it or not, our kids have been going to camp since DeVenneville reopened. We've had middle school attendees, elementary camp, and high school, and our new child care preschool teacher, Lily, was counselor in training last summer at DeVenneville, which means she'll be working as a counselor. I mean, this is what, camp is the most important thing we can do for the kids. It's what makes them lifelong UUs. So, $10 for the book. Speaking of DeVenneville Pines, we have our cluster camp on October 14th to 16th, and that's a family camp. You, again, read the announcements and you'll be able to find out if there's space available and sign up to go. It does cost a little bit of money, but it's worth it. Also, if you go online, you can sign up for our group in Walk for the Hungry. It helps the Inland Valley Hope Partners. It's the Walk for the Hungry and the Homeless. It's been in existence 49 years, and I believe we participated almost every one of those years. So let's keep it alive. And finally, next Saturday, we have a rental. So all of the info that's on the side tables needs to be picked up and stored. We can put it out again next Sunday if we want, but it does need to be taken down today. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to those joining us on Zoom. And we also have some new visitors today. Can I embarrass you? I got a phone call yesterday from Melanie and Art. They are visiting us. They now live in Ontario after moving there, getting out of LA and moving out to the country of Ontario, so the country lands. So welcome. We're glad to have you here with us today. We open our service with an ingathering of the ringing of the bell. We ring it once for those who came before, for the Tongva and other native peoples who were the original stewards of this land and once called it their home long ago. We also honor our ancestors and the founding members of this congregation who imagined and formed it 70 years ago. We ring it once for those of us here and now, for our members, our friends, our visitors, our staff, and our extended UU family, all who hold, care, and grow this beloved community that we know as our own. And we ring it once for those who will come, for all who will find belonging here with us and make MVUUC their spiritual home in the days ahead. And that was one announcement we forgot, Ellen. If we could all put our phones in their most prayerful positions, that would be wonderful. And I invite you all to stand as you're comfortable, and we're going to sing out together our opening hymn, number 347 in the hymnal. The lyrics will be on the screen. Thank you, Darius, for that. Gather the Spirit.
Lighted once more. And strength to celebrate once again. Spirit of the and light on our side. Comfort to God, our Salvador's all. Peace and so on and strength to celebrate again.
Sounded great. Thought I was at General Assembly for a minute. I'd like to invite Juliana up to light our chalice. Our time together in worship connects each of our lives. And as a symbol of that connection, we light our chalice with a flame that represents our shared faith and our light of justice, hope, and witness. Hear now the words of my friends, a colleague's family that wrote these words for her ordination. It's titled, Shared Light, Shared Future, and it's written by Josh, Prudence, and Percival Roburn. We are all flames when we gather hand in hand. Our church, our community, our spirit home. We inspire, we celebrate, we come together, sharing our light of hope for our shared future. I invite you now to speak our covenant with me. The words will be up on the screen. Can you make it bigger, Jarius, please? There you go. Everybody see that okay? The words are also printed for those in the sanctuary. They're printed in the order of service. We affirm that love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve the world in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other. And let's stand together as you're comfortable, and we'll sing together Spirit of Life, number 123 in the hymnal. I'd like to invite Letha Comstock to come up. She will be giving us our wisdom tale for today. Letha is one of the co-chairs of our Religious Exploration Committee.
Good morning. Our story today is called And How Are the Children? Among the most accomplished and fabled tribes of Africa, no tribe was considered to have warriors more fearsome or intelligent than the mighty Macy. And I apologize if I pronounce it wrong. It is perhaps surprising then to learn that the traditional greeting that passed between Macy warriors, Kasiria Igura, one would always say to another, it means, and how are the children? It is still traditional greeting among the Macy, acknowledging the high value that the Macy always place on their children's well-being. Even warriors with no children of their own would always give the traditional answer, all the children are well. Meaning, of course, that peace and safety prevail, that the priorities of protecting the young, the powerless, are in place, that Macy Society has not forgotten its reason for being, its proper functions and responsibilities. All the children are well means that life is good. It means that daily struggles for existence do not preclude proper caring for their young. I wonder how it might affect our consciousness of our own children's welfare if in our culture we took to greeting each other with this daily question, and how are the children? I wonder if we heard that question and passed it along to each other a dozen times a day, if it would begin to make a difference in the reality of how children are thought of or cared about in our country. I wonder if every adult among us, parent and non-parent alike, felt an equal weight for the daily care and protection of all the children in our community, in our town, our state, and our country. I wonder if we could truly say without hesitation, the children are well. Yes, all the children were well. What would it be like if the minister began every worship service by answering the question, or asking the question, and how are the children? If every town leader had to answer the question at the beginning of every meeting, and how are the children? Are they all well? Wouldn't it be interesting to hear their answers? What would it be like? I wonder. And just a little comment, in our class when we read the stories, we always ask the children what they think, what their wondering question is for the story. And now I have a little surprise. Lily, could you come up? Even our Reverend doesn't know this. RE Council decided to start the new year out with a gift for our children. So we got a new Rainbow Promises poster. It will be hung in the classroom. I know Riley's here. Riley, that's for you. Come on up and get the chalice. And for all the other kids in our program, whether they meet with us in person or Zoom. And that is it. Thank you.
I'll ask the question later. Our offering message today comes from reading number 674 in our Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place, which is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope, for we are now the keepers of the dream. For those of us dream keepers who are struggling to meet financial responsibilities, we hold hope for a better way forward in the days just ahead. And those of us among us who are less affected by the financial stress of the world right now will step in and cover you like an umbrella sanctuary until the day comes, while together we hold hearts that are full of hope. For all the gifts of this beloved community, whether time, talent, or treasure, we are so very deeply grateful and promise to be good stewards of that shared dream together. For our beloveds in the Zoom sanctuary, we invite you to visit our donation link in the chat box. Thank you, Jarius. You can also find a donate button near the bottom of the online order of service that went out very late today. Our apologies for that. But you can click on that donate button at any time, 24/7, 365. We also invite those at home who use the Postal Service to mail your offerings and pledges to our address here in Montclair. And for those here in the sanctuary, please come forward with your generous offerings and donations for the Beta Center at the Inland Valley Hope Partners. For we are the keepers of this dream, and it is with both celebration and gratitude that our offerings will now be given and received. Thank you, Lily. That was beautiful. Oh, yes. Sharing our joys and concerns, the things that lift us up and the things that are weighing us down, is an important part of our life together as a spiritual community and a congregation. For those who are visiting, I hope you were told about these little notes, papers we have by the front door. They're also on the table over there. If anyone in the Zoom sanctuary has something that they would like shared with the congregation, please go ahead and put that in the chat. It's helpful if you put the word joy or concern at the start of your text message, so thank you. But I do have 3 of them here. The first one comes from Jimmy Grissom. Thank you, Jimmy, for this. He has both a joy and a concern. His joy is that his grandma Mary is home from her heart surgery, and she's doing great. So we send our hearts to your grandma. It's wonderful. And also a concern, one of the staff at the home where Jimmy lives fainted yesterday, so we want to keep them in our prayers. And this one comes from Maribel. Thank you, Maribel. It's information regarding visiting Dolores. She is sharing the news that, unfortunately, at Pilgrim Place, there has been an outbreak of COVID at the Health Service Center. So visiting is suspended until we can have a go-ahead from administration. Maybe we could somehow set up a Zoom or something for a touch-in if Dolores needs that. Yeah. And also a message from Carissa. She has a concern about her sister, Rebecca, who's been suffering complications from a long-standing medical condition. She was back in the hospital as of last night. Rebecca lives, I think, up in Sacramento area, yeah. So we hold Rebecca and send her our healing and thoughtful prayers. I don't see any in the Zoom chat. And I don't have any to share this week. Last week I had quite a handful. But let's just join together in a spirit of prayer. Spirits of life, spirits of love, and spirits of generosity, we draw near to that quiet, essential side of ourselves, and we open to consider the sacredness within us. We review the choices that we make each minute, each hour, each day that add up to a lifetime. We become aware that everywhere is the place to be loved and forgiven. We forgive ourselves for our harmful thoughts and actions against ourselves and others. And we know that right here, right now, in this very moment, is a place to begin again with love. As forgiveness flows, we welcome its release. We open our hearts to forgive others. We pray for well-being and joy for all beings, and that all be lifted from worry and burden into peace and abundance. May we all be blessed with the riches of an awakened and humble spirit, and may we embrace moment upon moment upon moment of peace and serenity. Amen. Let's breathe together. Our reading today is titled The Power to Save, and it's written by Sarah Palmer. Sarah writes, "My young kiddos, Samantha and I, discovered a honeybee that was trapped in a spider web, wrapped in a tangle of sticky webbing. The spider was close, but not moving closer lest they get stung. Samantha turned to me insistent, 'Mama, we need to save the bee.' But what about the spider? Don't they need to eat too? I was interested in how it would play out, like a tiny tiger versus gazelle. Samantha's eyebrows furrowed. Mama, we need to save the bee. She wasn't panicked, but there was a desperate note in her voice. Well, you can, I answered, but I don't want to interfere. Instantly, she located a stick and tenderly began to pull the threads from the bee. The spider made a run for it, and the bee wiggled. Samantha moved the bee and the sticky web strands like a medevac helicopter to a nearby leaf. The bee could stand and move her forelegs over her antenna and her rear legs, but she couldn't free her wings. I asked for the stick and gently unwound those remaining webs from her wings. The bee's wings buzzed to life, and she flew away. Samantha was visibly relieved. I'm glad we saved her. The spider will get other food today. We watched the spider pull the ragged strands, begin to rebuild the web. Later, I realized that Samantha felt powerless to help the bee because I hadn't given her permission to help. With a peer, she would have immediately saved the bee. But in the face of a passive authority figure, she felt blocked from doing what felt right to her. Since then, whether it's in the car or at bedtime, I've talked with my daughter about listening to her gut, my promise to pick her up any time she calls me, and how important it is, once she's safe, to take care of others who don't have the power that she does. As Samantha's grown up, I'm compelled to use my unique influence to teach her all the ways that she can trust herself. And I have to give her permission to save the bee over and over and over again. The gentle nudges that we feel that open us toward being a better person are not lost on us. May we forever perceive the ways that we can empower others and then live out those ways with a spirit of strength, justice, and joy. And today we will enjoy a beautiful piece of special music from Lily, but she wants to talk about it a little bit with us. Yeah, come in the.
So this is kind of related to the joys and sorrows we had earlier. I learned last night that I could not go today to play for Dolores. It was my intention to go after service and play for her and some other people at Pilgrim Place. And a while back during lockdown, we had these, some of you probably remember, Zoom meetings every Thursday. And occasionally, there were probably a few that Reverend Maggie could not be there, and I basically played a concert for everybody during the Zoom time. And one of the pieces that Dolores specifically requested was the second movement of Concerto de Aranjuez by Joaquin Rodrigo, which is originally for guitar and orchestra, but it was her favorite piece, so I found an arrangement for piano. And so I'm going to play that for you today. It's dedicated to Dolores.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful that you thought to do that. Thanks. It was August of 1959, and the proposed constitution of the newly forming Unitarian Universalist Association was just published. It would be only 2 short years until the consolidation of the Universalist Church of America and the American Unitarian Association would become reality in 1961. This draft bylaws document contained the first rendering of our much-beloved principles in Section 2 of Article 2, the very same location where the current version can be found in the UUA bylaws to this day. There were only 6 principles at that time, and the list began with free and disciplined search for meaning as the first principle. To this day, that principle remains my number one. And if we're all to confess our favorites, the free and responsible search for truth and meaning, number 4 in the current phrasing, will probably always be the most meaningful and engaging principle that I hold in the center of my life. But in the 1959 version of Section 2, Article 2, we see that principle number 3 names the supreme worth of every human personality, and along with the dignity of man. Perhaps we can hear and acknowledge the vernacular of male culture that was in place during that era, and embrace a clearer vision for the importance of revisiting and amending the wording of our beloved principles. The principles and purposes that replaced the original wording from 1959 were adopted nearly unanimously, which is very unlike our Unitarian Universalist culture, in 1984. And they've been with us virtually unchanged for nearly 4 decades. Our association has begun to look at them again with eyes and ears toward the future. Our UU principles, sources, and purposes are woven into the fabric of our denominational life, and they serve as the greatest identifier of who we are as a worldwide family of Unitarian Universalists. They create the framework of our faith. As the Reverend Ann Treadwell has said, the responsibilities for membership can be summed up as a thoughtful commitment to the principles. She's also stated that making such a commitment can change your life. Indeed it can, and indeed it has. Each of us has a unique story built from our own individual experiences that support her statement. And as our own congregational commitment continues to engage our spiritual journeys with our principles, our sources, and our purposes, our RE program and our Sunday services have aligned to celebrate our 7 principles, each on a monthly theme through next March. We will explore the proposed 8th principle in the month of April 2023. But as we began last week, our worship theme for September has a sharper focus on our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We enhance our understanding of the intention behind this principle with the children's wording. It says, we believe that each and every person is important. And the red promise that's on the back of your order of service reminds us to respect all people. There should be a big period after that. We include ourselves in the all people named in that promise. And we focus this week on a deeper embrace of the inherent worth and dignity that each and every one of us have at our very deepest identity. We pause today to look at the sacredness and the integrity that you have, residing deep within you and flowing through you, and shaping and enhancing your path through this world. As the world we live in continues to become more tender and more fragile and more complex, our personal and our communal integrity, strength, and self-awareness become more and more essential to our grounding and our sense of well-being, individually and as a congregation. The supportive structure of community is so very valuable to ensure that we are able to be our best selves in an unraveling world. Spending time in the company of those who treat us with worth and dignity goes a long way towards strengthening our spirits, lifting our self-image, and clarifying the purpose and vision of our contribution to the community life that we treasure. Finding, supporting, and holding our community becomes of even greater value when we open to see the ways that each of our individual lives have been changed by the spiritual journeys that we share. The gifts that each of us bring make that possible, and we begin to witness the increased positive impact that we have and how good we feel when we embrace and envision the ways that our contribution works to shape the outcome of things. The worth and dignity inherent in each of our lives is a characteristic that we all struggle with. We may never have acknowledged or claimed the sacred worth that's there within ourselves. And we can probably all shake our heads in agreement that we were taught that respect, worth, and dignity were indisputable characteristics of every older and more powerful adult that was over us, without question, no matter what. And as one who was raised in a large Catholic family with more spankings than hugs, let me edit that. Many spankings and no hugs. I understand why it is so hard for us to quiet the voices that criticize us and warn us of arrogance and narcissism that isn't there. We hear those hungry ghosts who keep pestering us, asking, how dare we? Well, what makes you think you're so special? Or who do you think you are? That last one, who do you think you are, is a very good question. And when it's asked in a spirit of kindness rather than ridicule, it's one that I hope you will answer with, I am a being of worth and dignity. Please forgive any awkwardness this creates for you and participate, I ask. Please join me as you're comfortable. And place your hand over your heart and say those words. I am a being of worth and dignity. Let's say it again. I am a being of worth and dignity. And once more. I am a being of worth and dignity. Yes. Yes, you are. We can come to the understanding here where we know who we are, that we are beings of worth and dignity, and we are inherently worthy of respect. And when we can clearly say that about ourselves, we can more clearly see those characteristics in others. I have a little story to share that could make that a bit more clear. There once was a young man who was struggling with depression and having trouble seeing his self-worth. He was doing all the right things, but still felt unworthy of happiness. He exercised, and he hung out with his friends. He made sure to spend time in nature whenever he could, and he followed up with his doctor and took the right medications. One weekend, he randomly took a course with a teacher that he thought might have something that would help him. When the workshop began, the participants were asked to sit in a circle, and the facilitator reached into a violin case and took out a very raggedy-looking instrument. The surface had burn marks. There were broken strings going in every direction, and there was a small chip of wood missing from the scroll. And it smelled of smoke. It had been through a lot. The teacher offered an apology for how the violin appeared, but asked each one to introduce themselves and tell a bit of their story as they passed the violin around the circle. As each person took the violin, they held it at a distance and shared a bit of who they were. And after each participant had spoken, the facilitator began to pass the violin around again, asking each person this time to look inside the instrument, to learn more about it. As each person gazed into the violin, they gasped at what was inside. Each person saw more than what they thought was a broken down, burned violin, more than a talking stick. They learned by looking inside that they could see its incredible worth, and they could see that they had been holding a Stradivarius. The young man remembered that signature, burned inside the wounds and scars that made exquisite instrument appear worthless. And the image of that identity helps him to this very day. And so may it help you in your search for your identity as being one of inherent worth and dignity, able to see it and say it. Look inside and see that you too are a Stradivarius. Blessed be. I invite you, as you're able, to stand now as we sing our sending song in our Singing the Living Tradition hymnal. It's number 301, and the title is Touch the Earth and Reach the Sky. Jarius has the lyrics up for us. Standing, can you grab your order of service and we'll do the chalice extinguishing words and read our benediction. Let's read this out loud together. If here you found freedom, take it with you into the world. If here you found comfort, go and offer it to others. If here you have dreamed dreams, help one another that they may come true. If you know known love, give some back to a bruised and hurting world. And if you believe in peace, then go in peace and be makers of peace.